The first female reporter to work at 2 major television stations in Louisville, she was known for her tough but fair approach, savvy judgment, and work with reporters to improve their stories. She started in 1972 at Wave TV, which made her its first woman anchor. She built a large following, but it declined, and the station fired her in 1979. She went to WHAS-TV, defeating a legal challenge from Wave, when a judge said her no-compete agreement with the station was, quote, industrial peonage, which has no place in today's society. She became a leading reporter and anchor at WHAS, the city's top-ranked station, and greatly respected by her colleagues. She was press secretary to Governor Paul Patton from 1995 to 2000. A native of southern Indiana, she was a graduate of Indiana University. She died in February 2022, just before her 72nd birthday. Please join me in welcoming posthumously Melissa Forsythe.
Thank you. Well, hello everyone, it's good to be here, and I'm with Melissa's sister. This is Cynthia Gibbs, and Cynthia did want to say a few words tonight. Cynthia, I know you and I have been talking. You say that even though she was very private, she would have loved this evening.
I think she would have, and she would have been very honored to have received this award. Thank you.
All right, I know Cynthia gets very choked up talking about Melissa and asked me to tell you a little more about her and say a few words about Melissa Forsythe. And I want you to imagine this. The year is 1972, and you are a young woman, 21 years old, just out of college, IU, and you drop into what was then the all-male world of local TV news. And in just a few years, you were one of the main anchors, and you're a household name. Welcome to the remarkable and I think Hall of Fame worthy story of Indiana native Melissa Forsythe. She was a true broadcast journalist who held the top ratings at not one, but 2 of Louisville's legacy TV stations for 20 years, first at Wave and then where I work at WHAS 11. And she also made true history along the way. She was the first female street reporter on TV in our city, and she was the first woman then to co-anchor an evening newscast in Louisville. Melissa was tough, and I got 2 tours of duty under Melissa. First as a high school intern in 1979 at WHAS 11 when I started, and then later in 1987 when I returned there as a full-time reporter. And she did die at her home in February. You know, and I knew the news of her death would be big, but I even wondered, I said, would people remember her? She was last on the air in 1991. Well, in the words of a favorite emoji these days, OMG. Thousands of people started telling us how she had become a reliable fixture to them, detailing how they grew up and trusted her each time she appeared on TV. People told us how they remembered where they were for certain big events when she was on TV, telling them about the news. And she dominated the airwaves before cable television and social media. Melissa broke big stories as a reporter, and she had a source list that was the envy of the city and our newsroom. It made her the most well-rounded anchor. She brought all of that street experience to the anchor desk. And she told me a story one time that in the days before teleprompters, she and her co-anchor at Wave, Livingston Gilbert, actually had bets over who could deliver the script the longest without looking down at the script to the words. She did it by knowing the news, not by reading it. When Wave fired her in 1979, WHAS immediately called her, but Wave said, no way. Can't go to work there. You have a no-compete agreement in your contract. You can't go across the street, even though they fired her. Well, she was so valuable as a journalist, WHAS went to federal court, along with Melissa, to fight for her employment. Melissa won, but also set a national precedent with that federal case, once again blazing a trail for all journalists who were no longer held to no-competes if they'd been let go. Barry Burnson, who was a reporter at Wave with her at the time, told me when she got hired as a street reporter, she carried her own heavy film camera, carried the tripod along to the stories, and he said was out there sweating with the rest of us, determined to beat the competition. And he said, I never heard her once say, I want to be a news anchor. She was at home covering political conventions, presidential inaugurations, major court trials, and then our endless Kentucky Derby coverage, ad-libbing it all. She was a serious journalist, but I know she had to laugh when this time of year would come around. Melissa's Derby hats became the talk of the town. People would ask us weeks in advance, what's she going to wear? What's she going to pick? Isn't that correct? After the Derby, we would get stacks of mail applauding her choice. Well, with all this, she was the most private public figure I have ever been around. She was tough and could be tough with her own coworkers when it came to good writing and accuracy. She marked up her scripts with her distinctive handwriting. And once, when I was a high school intern, she actually ripped up one of the scripts in front of me and tossed it back over to me and said, "Start over." I was 16 years old. Well, you didn't cry. You didn't go to HR. What did you do? You rewrote the script, and it made you better. It was tough love. She became a household name at WAVE and WHAS for her work ethic. If a story was big, I saw her work around the clock or even stay late at night. One night I made, maybe it was a mistake, I stayed a little late after the 11:30 news went off, and I was watching the story I'd done that night. Suddenly Melissa appears in the editing room, and she says, "French Lick, Indiana is on fire. You have to go right now. You need to get in our helicopter, grab a photographer, and go." Well, it had snowed all day long, and now it was crystal clear moonlit night. Temperatures were in the single digits, but the next thing I know, I'm in the air just before midnight, looking off in the distance what looks like a bonfire, and it's French Lick, Indiana, still on fire. We land, do our stories, get our interviews, come back, by this time it's 3 or 4 in the morning, and Melissa is still sitting in the newsroom. I was shocked. But she had sent us there, was anxious to know how bad it really was. She was going to make sure we got back with the story, plus Indiana was her territory. She owned it, and I better not mess it up. I was told by her, put a story together for the morning, and then I said, you know, it's still burning up there. We need to send another crew up there in the morning hours. And her response to me is something I have never forgotten. She says, well, if it were me, I'd go home, get a couple hours of sleep. You need to stay on the story and get back up there. You always want to be on the big stories to the end. Don't give them up. She walked the talk. What great advice to give to any young reporter. We are so fortunate to have had such this tremendous journalist in our city, our state, and our TV station. She worked closely with many of the names already in this hall: Kaywood Ledford, Livingston Gilbert, Phyllis Knight. So I want to thank you all so much for inducting Melissa Forsythe into this amazing crowd. And true to the spirit of her as a working journalist, my final message here is to Melissa herself. I'm sure she's listening. Melissa, this is your night. I want to say thank you for your legacy and what you left us all, but I want you to know that I'm not down here having a party. I'm right now also reporting. As I finish this, I'm going to actually walk out of here, get in a car with photojournalist Ian Hardwitt, and head back to Louisville and make my deadline at 11 o'clock with your story. You never missed a deadline, and neither will I tonight. Our top story at 11, Melissa Forsythe in the Kentucky Journalism Hall of Fame. Thank you very much.
Let's get a picture. Stand in the light for the photographer. Don't forget to throw some on your phones here. How about that?
That's good.